Am I the arsehole for refusing to wear the wedding dress my sister-in-law gave to me as a wedding gift? It starts off, I, female 27, met my fiancé Jacob, male 31, when I was 21. We've been together for 6 years and engaged for almost a year out of those. My mother's wedding dress has been passed down for generations and I remember being a little girl dreaming of walking down the aisle in it. We've recently been wedding planning and were invited to a dinner hosted by my fiancé's family that was on Sunday. When we arrived, we greeted everyone and sat at the table to eat. Sister-in-law stood up and tapped her spoon against her glass and said that she had to make a toast. She then said she'd be right back before going into another room and returning with a large plastic bag. Everyone seemed to be excited but I just felt confused. I awkwardly smiled as I asked sister-in-law what was inside the bag. She opened it up to reveal her wedding dress from a wedding which was 2 years ago. Everyone began clapping as sister-in-law announced that this was her official wedding gift to us and she wanted me to wear her dress at the wedding. I tried to smile but I guess I didn't do a good job of hiding my disappointment and everyone began asking me what was wrong. I tried to explain how I wanted to wear my mother's dress and that it was nothing personal but that I refused to wear my sister-in-law's dress. My sister-in-law began crying as my in-laws began tearing into me and comforting her. I just burst into tears and ran outside. My fiancé didn't even come after me and after crying my eyes out on the steps for what felt like hours, he finally came outside and yelled at me to get into the car. I was so confused but I got into the car just to hear him berate me on how I had made such a big scene and embarrassed him in front of his family. He sounded so mad and he even said he couldn't believe he chose to marry such a bitchy, "See you next Tuesday," his exact words. My fiancé also said how sister-in-law was just trying to be nice and that her dress was more modern compared to my mother's dress which looked like an old rag, also his exact words. I tried to tell him how much my mother's wedding dress meant to me because I promised her that I would wear it. I felt like my fiancé's family planned this and put me on the spot thinking I wouldn't stand up for myself and just agreed to wear sister-in-law's dress. I don't think I did anything wrong but part of me thinks I should have just gone along with it and then told sister-in-law in private that I wouldn't be wearing the dress. Am I the arsehole? So in the comments affectionate tap says not the arsehole but be thankful that he is showing you who really is before you marry him. You've just had a glimpse of what your future is going to look like if you go through with your wedding. Disastrous photo replies and says OP this right here but let me tell you it's way worse than you've previewed. Any person who would speak to their partner with such derision blatantly disrespect their family's traditions and conspire with their family to control you and the choices you make does not see you as a human being but merely as a prop or accessory to use as they wish and servant to bend to their will. This means when you do not 100% anticipate and fully comply with their worldview and expectations of you, you'll be emotionally and verbally abused which quickly escalates in many cases to physical and sexual abuse. Do not continue forcing this relationship. You deserve so much better and your future children, if that is your plan, also deserve a loving and mutually respectful household to grow up in. Could you imagine allowing your daughter to be spoken to and treated the way your fiancé treated you? Could you imagine raising a son who saw his treat you that way and allow him to grow up believing that was how women are to be treated? You are so much more than that. Demand for yourself a person who is as deserving of you as you are of them. No order says mom you need to leave that whole family behind, including your fiancé. Definitely not the arsehole. You just had a peek into your future if you carry on with this relationship. BRYLYNN says OP do not waste your mama's wedding dress on this man. He doesn't deserve it. Pale Needleworker says not the arsehole. Your fiancé needs to have more respect for you as he probably knew you were really set on wearing your mother's dress. He should have been there for you and defended you and when he didn't, he clearly shows you what kind of person he is. OP says thank you. I think I really needed to hear this. It's just so reassuring to know because I really felt like I was in the wrong for the past few days. And all I can do on this one is agree with the comments and that this is a glimpse of your future where he spoke to you the way he's demanding that you wear this dress and not defending you against his family. This is your future if you carry on. I also feel maybe he was a part of this and didn't like your mother's dress for whatever reason and was getting the sister involved to hand down her dress so you'll have a more modern one but obviously I can't guarantee that. It just popped in the old noggin as I was thinking about it. But OP did come in to update the post and said hi everyone. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you to everyone in the comments supporting me and all of the private messages reaching out. I haven't got to all of them but I'll try to whenever I can. I really didn't expect so many people to see my post but I just want to make it clear how grateful I am. I know a majority of you told me to leave him and I took some time to think about it but I know I can't leave without a proper conversation. At the end of the day I spent 6 years with this man and his behavior was honestly out of the ordinary. I agree with a lot of the comments saying that his family was influencing him because he used to be so caring and kind, but ever since the wedding planning began he changed. Since the dinner on Sunday he hasn't been talking to me at all and always leaves the room whenever I come in. His honestly immature behavior and all of your comments have made me rethink my whole relationship. I did end up making him sit down with me a few hours ago to talk about things and have an adult conversation. He was very dismissive and was just scrolling on his phone for the majority of the time. I tried to explain how I felt put on the spot at the dinner, but how his reaction and the fact that he didn't come after me or comfort me post the dinner was so hurtful and disrespectful. All he had to say in response was that I was being selfish and that my sister-in-law was trying to help and I just embarrassed her in front of everyone. The conversation honestly went nowhere and I felt really shitty and lost. Around an hour ago he came up to me and apologized, saying he was sorry and that he understood how I was feeling. I asked what we would do about the dress and he told me that he had talked to sister-in-law and she had agreed to let me wear my mother's dress during the reception, but I would wear her dress during the main ceremony. I admit I kind of lost it because he said it as if I needed permission to wear my wedding dress on my wedding day. I haven't felt so disrespected in my life. I've just been sitting inside our bedroom and I'm pretty sure things are over after this. Edit. I will admit my mother's dress is slightly old-fashioned. I had talked to him before we got engaged and it was my dream to wear it, which he had no problems with. The fact that he didn't respect how sentimental it was to me is what hurt. Also, during our second conversation he kept bringing up how his family was paying for a majority of the wedding, which yes, they were paying about 75% of it. I tried to remind him that it was my wedding too. Edit 2. Yes, I'm leaving him for sure now. I really don't appreciate the comments calling me bad names for staying. I never intended to stay, and the reason I thought we needed a conversation was because this behavior was recent and I wanted to understand what was going on. I haven't told him that it was over officially, though it should be obvious, yet mainly because I'm scared he might do something violent, as many comments said. I need a few days to figure things out and I'm going to tell my brother to pick me up so I can stay there for a few days. I'm logging off for now, but I'll update if anything happens. So the top comments after that one, election sad, said girl, that was not an apology. He just told you his family pay 75% of the expenses, so you better wear the sister-in-law's dress. This is the type of husband that would be dismissive and choose his family over his wife. Human Perspective says she will not be able to choose the name of her children. She will not be able to choose the type of clothes they will wear when they visit her son at his house. They will criticize everything and everything that OP does or does not do. Does this wrong? This is just the beginning. Jerome says the apology wasn't real. If you marry him, he'll go back to being who he's been since the wedding planning started. He thinks he's trapped you and he's starting being his real self. Run. Arungrad says I was about to post this and you beat me to it. Yep, he thinks you're not going to cancel on him now. It's all reserved and deposits are burnt down. He'd feel so guilty about his parents losing money, blah, blah, blah. So he doesn't have to pretend to be super caring and loving anymore. He's done. He won't do anything terrible until after the marriage is official. But he's not ever going to be that sweet and nice guy again unless he thinks you're going to leave him. Then he'll fake nice until you change your mind. Can you imagine, like from the sister-in-law's perspective, having that kind of attitude that you must wear my dress? I've gifted it you and you must do this. This is what drives me towards the reasoning that maybe Opie's fiancé doesn't like the dress and therefore got his sister-in-law to gift this dress to guilt her into wearing it so he can basically get what he wants. Again, I don't know the full ins and outs, but that's what it reads like to me. But I totally agree with all the comments that situation now, doing it in a safe way as possible. Like you said, getting your brother involved, having someone with you all the time, having conversations in open places if you have to. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from the relationship advice subreddit from a throwaway account who says, what do I do first? My 29 female boyfriend 37 male dropped on me that he wants kids after almost 2 years and I'm realizing I have to go. My boyfriend and I moved in together about a year ago. I've been very clear from the second date that we ever went on that I don't want biological kids. I've discussed it at length with him and until about 2.5 weeks ago, I thought we were on the same page. He told me he didn't think he could do another 18 years of child rearing as he already has a 10-year-old daughter. He just moved in with us in January. He bought a house, we got a dog together and I was planning for an entire life with he and his daughter. Originally, he told me he bought the house so that his daughter would have a bedroom. He told me the other night his entire purpose in marrying me was to have a child. News to me. And that the reason he bought the new house is so we could build towards having an actual family, minimizing the one that we already have. I've been crying in secret for 2 weeks. I finally accepted yesterday that I probably can't stay in this relationship. I wanted marriage and he's telling me that marriage is innately tied to having a child with him. I can't compromise that part of myself. But I'm also trying not to spiral. My car broke down unexpectedly yesterday. It's raining oil out of the bottom and I have no savings. I've been living paycheck to paycheck. I've been spending money on our mortgage, for pets, on activities with his daughter, on paying down credit. I have no idea what my next step should even be. And the worst part is that I love him so much still. He's such a good person and everything feels so normal. Except that he doesn't want to get married anymore and he wants to have a kid and I still don't. I'm struggling to see solutions. I know I need to leave but logistically I'm having so much difficulty figuring this out. Especially trying to sort through my feelings in the midst of it. Edit to clarify, I'm not on the mortgage with him. I told him I would not sign anything together until if we ever married. I've been contributing to basic cost of living things, mortgage payments, bills, groceries, etc. because I care about him and thought we're building towards a life together. I didn't want him to have to do things alone because I believed we're in a partnership. He's helped support me as well. However, he's also ignored my voice in ways I dismissed and unable to see now. I want to say I really appreciate everyone's suggestions and support. It is really helpful and meaningful and also validating my decision. And the first commenter says your immediate next step should be to secure your birth control. I know you probably don't want to believe that he's the kind of guy who would sabotage birth control to get what he wants, but he is the guy who has been lying to you about what he wants for years. Make sure that whatever birth control you're relying on is not one he can mess with, aka no pills. After that you need to look towards other forms of security. Stop spending money on activities with his daughter. Tell him you can't afford that. See if you can pick up any extra income on the weekends like by pet sitting, yard work, babysitting, tutoring or whatever else is available and fits your skills. If you've got a reason you can point to as why that's necessary, fixing your car, but it also cuts into time you have available to spend with him. Ask around with your friends or coworkers. See if anyone is looking for a roommate. Do not feel guilty about lying to him about your plan to get out of this relationship. He's been lying to you for years about what he wants from this relationship with you because he knew. It's not what you want and he wanted to get you sucked in anyway. You can't trust him to have your best interests in mind. Forsaken still says, is he keeping you broke? It's subtle but that's what they do. You have to pay X because it's fair and you don't want to be a burden, right? Pay half the groceries even though he filled the cart with steaks and brand names. Can you grab me a case of beer while you're out? You should take your daughter out for X and Y, don't you love her? Buy this, buy that. Extra lengthiness says yeah, so your entire relationship he's either been lying or just not listening to you. Okay OP, if you don't want to have a child, secure your birth control right now and start planning your exit. Save up your money, you're not having cosign for a new car. Start planning out a life without him. I mean, he was able to plan out your life without him taking your thoughts into consideration. You're upfront with him from day one. He's building a life in his head that he has not shared until just now. Yes, this has to end. You can love him but don't forget or forgive that he thinks you're a means to his dream. He does not think of you as a person with agency. Good riddance. Oh, and he put his daughter in the middle of this. OP responds saying all accurate. All things I've been coming to accept over the last 2 weeks. Thank you for sharing your perspective. And one more comment which says the other side of that happened to me. We was married for 25 years and at the end she had an affair with a married guy who had done the same thing to his wife. She had told him she didn't want kids from the beginning and after 18 years he dropped on her that he did, in fact, want kids. When she said no again and again and again he had an affair with my wife. So we got divorced and they got divorced and then wife and affair partner got married. I'm glossing over it but this was the worst, most painful year of my life. And yep, they tried, except my wife at the time was 46 and had already had 3 kids with me. I don't know which one of them was dumber but after 4 years of no success, he cheated on her and knocked up another woman and left my ex for her. The point of telling you is that yeah, it's probably better to let him go. That pressure will build and build in him and I'm not saying he'd cheat at that point but I'm also saying it happened to me. Good luck and I'm sorry this happened to you. So OP came in with her update and said so several people requested an update, boy have I got one for you. I dropped my vehicle at the mechanics on Friday and waited until Tuesday to hear anything back. He called me back on Tuesday afternoon once I was just off of work to tell me that he had diagnosed a problem and it was going to be less than $300 to fix it. He told me it would be about a week before it was done. I began to make arrangements with a kind coworker of mine for rides to work and then that evening I got a call from the mechanic again. He told me that he had gotten hold of the part he needed, replaced it and that my car would be ready for pickup that evening. Tuesday night when I got home from this however, my boyfriend and I ended up in an extremely intense discussion, during which he once again clarified that he gives two shits about getting married. Not only did he make us abundantly clear, he actually spent about 2 hours essentially dismissing, minimizing, and deflecting the importance of marriage to me and kept throwing it in my face that the way I feel about marriage with him is the way he feels about kids with me. He said nothing would change if we got married, but when I asked why it matters so much if nothing would actually change, why wouldn't he just get married to me since it's obviously important to me, I got no response of any substance, only deflection and patronization. It was honestly devastating and I couldn't do it justice typing it out, but I spent from 9 p.m. until 1 in the morning crying and I sobbed myself to sleep. There was no room for denial at that point, and because my vehicle had miraculously been fixed, I had an out. Wednesday, I contacted a local landlord who I have rented from previously. I asked if they had any units available and they did, within my price range, at a flat rate. She told me she would call me back and she did, and she said I could come in the next day to look at it. Which brings us to today. After I got off work I went straight to the landlord's office and called the keys to go look at the apartment. It's tiny but it's perfect. I decided to take it and I knew that when I got home I had to tell him. He came home after me and when he walked in the door I asked if he had any plans made prior that evening and he said no. I didn't want to disrupt anything that he had intended to do with the conversation of me moving out, but it turned out that he didn't, so we had it. I initiated by telling him I was moving out, and when he asked why, I told him it was clear from our conversations over the past couple of weeks that there have been a lot of unspoken expectations that was affecting our relationship and there was no way to gain clarity about those while we were living together. In that conversation he told me he had invested everything in our relationship and he asked me what I had invested. He acted as though I had railroaded him through our entire relationship and told me that he was compromising on having children, but the one time he asked me for anything I refused to compromise. He guilt-tripped me again about how he's either having kids with me or he's not going to have them at all due to his age. And this is his last chance. He told me he'll never date again if our relationship doesn't work. He blamed me for having to explain what is happening to his daughter, and based on what he said I don't think he's going to let me say goodbye to her. He was surprised when I told him that I wanted the dog to stay with him and I said I'm doing this because marriage and children and relationships don't have a gray area. I don't see a way to bridge that gap because we want different things essentially, and I said I'm not ending the relationship because I don't care about him, his daughter, our life, the dog, anything, but I'm doing it because I believe this is the right thing to do right now. I even told him I could be wrong, but I wasn't sure what else to say. And he went back to marriage, not changing anything about the relationship and minimizing the value of it. He said he would still essentially be doing everything in the relationship and committing to it without marriage, and I responded to that by saying I didn't understand how he could make all these commitments and invest so much but be unwilling to fully commit through marriage. And the final nail in the coffin for me was when he said he views marriage as an institution and he doesn't need a piece of paper to validate his relationship, and that he, unlike me, was not brought up in a religious environment of sheep that led him to believe marriage was the make or break of a successful relationship. After that I cried a lot. I went to get some ice cream and I feel better now. I'm going to start moving my stuff into the new apartment tomorrow and everything worked out at a rapid rate. That tells me I'm on the right track. Thanks to the community for the encouragement here. I thought I was going crazy, then after this conversation tonight I realized that the only time I actually feel crazy is after I talk to him. I'm also looking forward to having my own place again, quiet, just for me. I know that I'll still be sad for a while, but I also know that I'm going to be okay. So there were some top comments on this one as well. Trish said, congratulations, you sound excited and realistic about your new life and you made the only decision that you could have. Wow, he really showed his true colors, didn't he? Stunning. Relevant Demand says, congratulations, you sound excited about the move in your own space. I think you made the right decision. Staying would have meant giving up a part of yourself and what is important to you. Suffering says, wow, I just arrived here and let me tell you, it's for the best. Who knows what other insane views you might have put up with somewhere down the line when you were more dependent on him financially or for support. Example, you get sick or pregnant and can't go anywhere else. You definitely got out of there and in my view dodged a huge bullet. Brasselguy says, the one time he asks you for something, locking yourself to him forever raising children. You say no, that one simple thing. I think that was sarcasm.